Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Title Update 3. Today we're talking about Charge Blade with the big build updates and all the important info that you're going to need to know. We have a lot to cover, from your best element sets and the interesting potential involving the new Bale armor and its 2-set bonus, as well as alternative options if your RNG Talisman options aren't the best, so please use the timestamps. We also have raw builds today if you don't want to faff around multiple element charge blades, which is understandable, but be aware that matching element weaknesses, it goes a long way, certainly for Omega. Plus, Charge Blade is uniquely strong for element with its hilariously high element boost numbers, the 50 per, compared to other weapons. So either way, here's our best setups for Title Update 3 for both playstyles. But as usual, credit and thanks to Josh for putting together the builds we're looking at today. He's spending his entire days testing everything to find what results in the highest effective raw and element. So he deserves the credit for that. I'm just presenting it today as the person that actually plays Charge Blade. But also, once again, a thank you to the data miner of the Talisman Info, DTL Nor, so that we can work out what's even possible. With that said, let's begin. We begin with the element weapon setup. As usual, it is an artian, and here's how we boost it. 4 element, 1 sharpness. As you can see, each element boost gives a hilarious 50, and that also increases the potential element cap, so it is important and worth doing. In terms of the offensive decorations we have in it, you want your element attack 3, 1 handicraft. We have rapid morph level 3 and then the 1 handicraft, and then the razor sharp and 1 handicraft, completely managing your sharpness entirely. The problem with this is a lack of load shells. That is because we're getting it from our talisman, as we'll discuss in the build section. If you are not getting load shells from your talisman, as the alternative build will highlight, then I'd be running the element attack with handicraft, the load shells with handicraft, and then razor sharp with handicraft, or rapid morph in the place of razor sharp. Quick word on this. For element, since Title Update 2, we had massive boosts to AED and vial benefits compared to, say, Savage Axe Ticks, which were nerfed at the time. This is why you see Charge Blade users using element doing this awesome morph loop combo. Shield thrust into AED, into the new follow-up, and then repeat. With element Charge Blade, you want to be doing that loop, which is why rapid morph 3 out of 3 is very important. Let's take a look at the element sets we're looking at today. We have the main one I'm going to talk about, a quick alternative, one where you've got no RNG Talisman involved, a comfy set for a lot more defense, and then the ridiculous Bale Element Set, which has higher potential than our main sets, but obviously relies on red health, as we'll discuss, so a lot less reliable. Starting from the top then, the main element set. This uses Gore Helm in Beta, the Mizu Chest in Beta, the new Omega Gloves in Alpha, of course, is the only option, the Gore Waist in Alpha specifically, not Beta, and then the Mizu Boots in Beta. The talisman that makes this possible is this one that comes with 2 load shells, and then at least 1 level of maximum might. If you have 2, then you get a free 2 slot to work in something else, as we'll show, but you do want at least 1 2 slot on this talisman, so that you can fit in the Mighty Jewel. I much prefer this setup to the alternative because you've got load shells on the talisman. This allows you to free up a space in your offensive decoration list, allowing you to fit the very important rapid morph and still have razor sharp for sharpness management. I'll show you the alternative in a moment, but for the moment, that's this setup. This is the decorations that we're using for this skill list. This allows us to have the handicraft at 3, razor sharp 3, rapid morph 3, the full element attack, your load shells, and then on the armor, we've got the full agitator, 3 constitution, 3 burst, and full max might coalescence antivirus. We get the nice 2 divine blessing, which is really helpful for survivability. Bit of random evade window, and then with that spare 2 slot, I go for counter strike, so it's just occasionally activating, giving us a little bit of raw here and there. This set gives us 2 set of gore, of course, for the affinity, but also bubbly dance to help us have better coalescence uptime to boost our element. Now let's look at the alternative before we get into the math, because both sets will reach the same effective raw and capped element. So the alternative is this. Gore Beta, Mizu Chest Beta, Gore Alpha Gloves. Then you got the Beta Zoshia Waist and Beta Mizu Legs. This then uses a rarity 8 talisman by comparison, with a more familiar setup, with 4 attack boost thanks to the 1 offensive slot that it has. Then, you know, it could be anything as this second skill, the 1 level of weakness exploit, agitator like me, maybe you have 1 level of burst instead. And as long as you've got 1 extra 1 slot, you can fit in antivirus to the build. This is what we were using in Title Update 2.5, so you may already have this based on that. These two sets are presented in this way to give you options based on the RNG talismans, but these are the decorations we use to achieve this skill list. I'm just going to let you look at it and pause if you need to. There are the set bonuses. For the offensive decorations here, you can either go Rapid Morph or Razor Sharp, but I would recommend you go Rapid Morph because with the element set, you're going to be doing the Morph combo. The downside there is less sharpness protection, obviously. Anyway, either one that you go for, whether it's the main set or the alternative, it's going to be the same results. So with this set, we have 205 base raw, we get a 2% increase from attack 4, bring us to 209.1. We get the flat increases from that attack 4, burst 3, agitator 5 with a 65% reliable uptime, bring us to 242.1. Multiply that by 32% with white sharpness, we get to 319.57. We have 70% reliable affinity from these sources on screen, but no crit boost in this setup, so crits are a 25% damage increase by default, 70% of the time, more like a 17.5% overall damage increase. Multiply that by the last number, and that brings us to 375 effective roll. Whichever setup you go for, that's reasonable because the main thing here is the element where we want to be hitting that cap as much as possible. 950 is our cap, so with this setup we start with 500 base element, increase that by 20% from melee attack 3, gets us to 600, then we have coalescence 3, that's a 30% increase, that's 780 now. Then we have the flat numbers from melee attack 3 and burst 3, bringing us to 940. 940 on a non-SAED build, pretty insane. We're right below the cap there. Divide that by 10 to de-bloat it to get the true element, bringing us to 94. And then multiply that element by white sharpness, which is a 15% increase. That brings us to 108 effective element. Being right below the cap in this setup is ultra good. And that's why it's the first two set options I wanted to show you. However, you may like the concept, but you just don't have an RNG talisman of either kind that I've showed you. So let's do the no RNG version that basically uses the maximum might talisman. We have the gore helm in beta, Mizu chest in beta, the omega gloves in alpha, the gore waist in alpha, and the Mizu legs in beta. Then we just slap on the mighty charm for 3 levels of maximum might. Then we rejig the decorations like so to achieve this skill list. Give it a quick pause if you want to look at it. But it's a very similar skill list, but lacking all, say, attack boost. And overall, it's not actually going to be a massive loss for the element, thanks to the new Omega piece that makes this possible. With its incredible 3 and 2 decoration slots, the level of agitator, and then you just get a bit of bonus divine blessing on top. That is awesome. So for a no RNG version of the set, that's really nice, even if not as good as the literal peak. Now I did promise a comfy version of these sets, if you're struggling to survive, so let's take a quick look at that. In this set, we have Legiacrus Beta for the helm, Zoshia in Alpha for the chest, then we have the Gore Gloves in Beta, the Zoshia Waist in Beta, and finally the Gore Legs in Beta. Once again, we have a similar concept for the Talisman, the Rarity 8 with the Attack Boost 3, the 1 offensive slot to get that next attack boost to reach 4 for the percent bonus. Then you have the other 1 level. That could be Agitator like me, or it could be Burst. The thing is, with Title Update 3, they gave us a new way to upgrade the Burst Talisman, which gives you 3 levels of Burst. This is not quite as good as this RNG Talisman, but then there's no RNG involved, right? And for a comfy set, that'll be a lot more approachable, as at least a reference to that. Anyway, the thing that's comfy about this set is the fact that it comes with 2-piece Zoshia. So we got the Super Recovery, and then you'll find yourself with multiple 1 slots available, which allows you to easily slot in a bit of Divine Blessing. So that's the gear. Here's the decorations I used to achieve this skill list. As you can see, we got the full Agitator, the Max Might, Coalescence, Counter-Strike 3, and then you end up on Burst 1 or Burst 3, depending on whether you use the Burst 3 talisman or not, like I mentioned. So that should be a lot more approachable, with the guaranteed talisman option there too, with Burst 3. But now it's time to get interesting. We have the Bale set. Let's talk about why. The Bale set has set bonuses. The one we care about is Dark Arts for 2 pieces of it. Having recoverable damage increases elemental attack and then other stuff through Greatsword. What this is a 14% increase to your element while it's active. It is active while you have red recoverable health. So it's not going to be active all the time. But that is a big element increase, obviously. With the right setup, this build actually has more effective raw than the previous sets, and higher highs with element as well. But being realistic, we were already right below the element cap, so reaching it or whatever is only a small increase. Your reliable uptime on Coalescence is going to be a lot worse because we don't have Mizu. for the bubbly dance. But if you were to play around recoverable health, you're okay taking a hit and then letting that red health be there for a while. There is a lot of potential here because, again, higher effective raw is definitely interesting to look at, but I'd still recommend the first sets over this one for a normal player. But as it is new and it's fun to look at, we wanted to, so let's take a look at the set. It uses gore beta for helm, the Zoshia chest in beta, the new Bale gloves for the gloves and the waist, and then finally we have the second piece of gore in beta for the legs. This uses that same talisman we showed earlier, the 2 load shells and 2 maximum might, with the 2-1 decoration slots on it. What's great about this fact is that it frees up load shells from the decorations. This then allows you to slot in 3 crit boosts into the offensive decorations. Then you've got to choose between razor sharp or rapid morph. Like I said, for the morph loop. For element, I'd always recommend the rapid morph over razor sharp, but if you find yourself with super sharpness problems, then it's an option to go back to this. But again, I'd recommend the rapid morph as the option. But that crit boost concept allows us to really push the effective raw here while benefiting from a new source of element boost in the 2-piece of Bale. So here's the decorations that we use to achieve this skill list. The 3 crit boost, the full element attack, rapid morph / razor sharp I guess, your levels of handicraft, the load shells, and then the armor decorations and set gives us the full agitator max might. We get full divine blessing here, which is awesome. Coalescence, antivirus, then obviously you got the 2 resentment for while you got that red health, bit of constitution, the 2 burst, the 1 latent power, bit of free evade window and flinch free. And then for our set bonuses we have the gore and of course the dark arts from Bale. So let's take a look at the math just to reference it. 205 base raw, we have flat increases from burst 2, agitator 5 with the 65% uptime, the resentment 2 with its low 20% uptime, bring us to 230. Multiply that by the white sharpness, that brings you to 303.6. We have 76% reliable affinity here from the max might, antivirus, the base artian, agitator 5 with the 65% uptime, and the latent 1 with its 66% uptime. So yeah, 76% reliable affinity with 3 crit boost, that's a 34% damage increase 76% of the time. So it's more like an average 25.84% damage increase overall. So we multiply that by our last number, and that brings you to 382 effective raw. That's 7 more effective raw than our other best set, and then you're still pumping the element at the same time. But again, this requires you to be comfortable triggering and then playing with red health, which isn't super far away from saying something like, heroics is really strong, you should use it, just don't ever get hit. Now obviously having a bit of red health is a lot less dangerous than being very low health and one-hittable like you would be doing with heroics, but it is comparable in that way. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to look at and really cool to see that it's actually competitive. But again, still recommend the first sets over the Bale set for a normal player. Alright, that finally brings us to the raw sets. Let's talk about the weapon you would run for a raw setup. Of course, it would be Artian again with a status of your choosing, blast or paralysis. I like paralysis. With this setup, we go attack boost all the way except for 2 sharpness boosts. That allows us to not worry about sharpness management in the offensive decorations. So speaking of which, the offensive decorations, we go 5 crit boost, and then we of course have the load shells and the 1 level of handicraft there just to help a little bit. Your alternative to this would be to drop the crit boost and go artillery of course, and then the rapid morph levels with that bonus of handicraft. So to address it, for Raw, Title Update 2.5 walked back some of the nerfs that happened to the chainsaw focus gameplay that was nerfed in Title Update 2. Before that change, we were using the ED1 into ED2 repeating combo. With them walking back that nerf somewhat, that did put the ED combo back on the menu, letting us take advantage in this case of 5 crit boost again for the chainsaw gameplay. But obviously, it's still very valid to use the morph loop with Raw, where we can benefit from things like artillery. And then obviously running rapid morph to maximize the morph loop. For that combo, you do the shield thrust into AED into the follow-up and then repeat that instead of ED1, ED2. Now either way, the options are pretty close in potential. You can go for what you prefer, but we're covering the absolute maximum, which we believe is the 5 crit boost and ED1, ED2 option. So with that said, the Raw set, let's take a look. It's Zoshia Beta Helm, the Gamma Ray chest, the new Omega gloves, the Gamma Ray waist, and then the Gamma of Duna legs. In this case, we do need a very good talisman, which is the 4 attack, 3 on the actual talisman, 1 in the offensive decoration. And then you would have the other level being weakness exploit, burst, or agitator like me. You don't actually need that extra 1 slot, that just gives me a bit of constitution as a little heads up. So looking at the set, these are the decorations we use to achieve this skill list. The full crit boost, the 4 attack boost, we have our load shells and 1 handicraft, then we have the hefty full agitator, latent power, max might, and some fun bonuses and a bit of constitution, the divine blessing, random quick sheath which is actually helpful for the Omega fight, the 1 weakness exploit, the 1 burst, 1 counter strike for when it's off, and recovery speed. Importantly, you're getting thunderous raw from the 2 ray pieces to increase the duration of latent power, and with the 3 gamma pieces, this gives you guts tenacity for the raw scaling. Let's take a look at the math to show off how potent this is. We have 220 base raw. We increase this by 7% thanks to attack 4 and guts tenacity, bringing us to 235.4. Then we have the flat increases of attack 4, burst 1, agitator 5 with its uptime, bringing us to 264.4. Multiply that by the white sharpness, and that brings you to 349. Next we have the 83% reliable affinity from maximum might, latent 5, agitator 5, the base artian, and weakness exploit 1. Then with our ideal setup, we do have the 5 crit boost, so that's a 40% damage increase 83% of the time, so it's more like an average of 33.2% damage increase. Multiply that by our last number, and that brings you to 465 effective raw for your raw charge blade, plus all the benefits of hitting your vial pops and so on. Now if you were going the morph loop, you'd have rapid morph, you'd have artillery by comparison, right? But then you'd be running no crit boost like I mentioned. So with no crit boost in that context, it'd still be 422 effective raw, which beats out our last title update 2.5 raw set. So it's still an upgrade there. And then obviously all of the benefits of artillery and the vial pops. But that shows you why we lean more on the ED1, ED2 combo in this context. As a quick alternative, here is the same build but without an RNG Talisman, running the Exploiter Charm in my case for 2 weakness exploit. Here's the armor set, Zoshia helmet and beta, Ray Gamma in the chest piece, the Omega gloves, the Ray Gamma waist, and then again the Duna Gamma legs, then with the Exploiter Talisman. In this case we use these decorations to achieve this skill list as your weaker alternative, but at least no RNG Talisman is involved if that's what you need. But yeah, there you have it. That is our update for Title Update 3. Light involvement from Omega overall, but obviously the glows are fantastic. They are there. It is really cool that we have serious potential with that Bale set. If you're willing to play around red health, which is certainly easier than heroics health, even if it's tough. I hope that was all pretty understandable. Please do drop a like if it's been useful. It's a lot of work. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.